nice. Okay, today I'm just gonna practice my English by just working on my algorithm problems. So in this case, I'm going to work on force matrix. So let's get started. Okay. Okay, one second. Let me just remove this guy out of my. Okay. So what we're going to do here, we're going to work on giving a two-dimensional array of integer force in array over the vertical axis, adding the number that match. This means that on each row we want to add the first and the last element together. This means we want to sum like first element and the last element, adding them together, and then move on to the second one, and then we return the new array. So in this example, they have like a matrix of arrays inside, right? So there are number 3, 7, 2, and 4. So in this case, what we want to do is that we want to add 3 and 4, because 3 is the first number and the 4 is the last number. So then what we want to return is in number 7. And the second one is that the second from the left element and the right element, 7 and 2, we add them together, so we return number 9. That's what we want to return. So let's get started to work on. I just gonna code, okay, what my strategy, what I gonna do, like that. Let's talk about as a strategy or algorithm, what we are going to do. We want to have the output which gonna be arrays, and then we going to iterate to matrix input, which we going to adding them. So from the last element, the first element, and adding to the left element, right? So that's it. Just add them, and then we're gonna have like inner arrays, right? So then we loop through each row. We get element in each row, and then we add them in the input element in inner arrays, and then we just add them to the outer array and then return. So what I'm gonna do just so quick here. So I'm gonna have our base case. Let's think about if our matrix is just empty, right? That length is 0, or we have to concern about our matrix at the column, right? It's matrix can have more, right, multiple, but then maybe that can just didn't pass them. It's just like an empty matrix. So when we just return empty. That's just our base case. Okay. And as I say, I'm gonna create output for array. That's what we want to return. So set it into empty array, and then what we're going to do, we want to iterate through the matrix array input, right, to get to each row. So we're just gonna use for loop. So each row is mean row element of matrix. Okay, that's what we already get each row. And then the magic is here. What we want to do, we want to have like a row. I'm going to set the length num row is set to row element that length, so I not need to deal with like a dot length at the time, right? So and then we're going to create the inner array, right, set to empty. That's what we want to add the number of sum like on each element to the inner, and then we're going to return this back later. Here we want to iterate through the row element on each row, right? So what I'm gonna do is just like use just simple for loop. So let row set to 0, and then we iterate until this condition row is less than num row, which I just create before. It's just like row element length, right? Num rows. But in this case, if our rows have just odd number, what we have to concern like how about if like we loop through each one and then they're not matched, right? So we have only the one element left. We just want to add them there. So we use the magic method from script. I'm gonna use magic.cell, and then row it should be divided by 2 because we don't want to add every element, right? So we want to have just adding, right? So the length of the inner output will be less than the length of each row element. So and then we just increment row. Like I said row is kind of like I, right? Usually we use I, but in this case I use R instead of I. Okay, so here we want to check if our R index is equal to the last element, right? Row minus R, minus 1 and minus R, minus 1 and minus R. Yeah, if the math, right, and then it means we have the only one element left. What we want to do, we just want to push the element, it means row element at row to the inner, right? Okay, else that's what we want to do. It means we want to have the left value. Left value is like from first element, right? So what is first element mean? Row element at R, and then from the right element, the HT, the right values is gonna be from the last element. So how we get to the last element, we're gonna do like row element at num row, right? Is at the length, row element at length, subtract by 1. That's what we get to the last one, but don't forget to subtract index, right? So in this case I create a row, so that's what it. So we can come, so and then what we do, we're going to just add them to inner array, right? Pushing them by adding them together. So let's add to right value, and then out of the second loop, what we want to do here, we want to add the inner, right, inner array to outer array. Okay, so outer fourth. Okay, and at the end we just return outer input. It's just result, right? Outer fourth. That's what I declare here. So let's run to see my code to be working. A second, what's wrong with it? So adding left to right inner, why I return matrix only. Row at R, row is R, num at I at R. Why return this one?